Ladies and gentlemen, today we're diving deep into one of the biggest questions in the MMA world. Is Robert Whittaker about to retire? The former UFC Middleweight Champion, the man known as the Reaper, is expected to decide his future after his next fight, likely during International Fight Week. And let me tell you, this could be a game changer for the entire middleweight division. So stick with me because in this video we're not just speculating, we're analyzing. We'll go through Whittaker's career, his most brutal fights, his current form, what this means for the UFC, and where he could go from here. And trust me, you don't want to miss this. Who is Robert Whittaker? The warrior's journey. First, let's set the stage. Because to understand what's at stake, you need to understand who Robert Whittaker really is. Whittaker is one of the most well-respected fighters in MMA. Born in New Zealand but raised in Australia, he was originally a welterweight when he entered The Ultimate Fighter, The Smash's back in 2012. Not only did he win the show, but he also made an instant impression with his crisp striking and fearless approach. He eventually moved up to middleweight, and that's where he truly became a legend. He went on a tear, defeating some of the scariest fighters in the division. Yoel Romero twice, Derek Brunson, Ronaldo Jacare Souza, and Jared Cannonier. These weren't just wins. These were wars. His two fights against Romero especially were some of the most grueling battles we've ever seen inside the Octagon. But Whittaker wasn't just a brawler. He was an incredibly smart and calculated fighter. His ability to mix striking, footwork, and defensive grappling made him one of the most well-rounded middleweights ever. Now, here's the question. Why are people even discussing Robert Whittaker's retirement? Well, first off, he's been in this game for over a decade. He's fought the absolute best in the world, and his body has been through wars. When fighters hit their mid-30s, they start thinking about life after fighting. And Whittaker himself has hinted that he doesn't want to fight forever. In recent interviews, he said he sees himself retiring by age 36. That gives him only a couple of years left in the sport. He's also talked about wanting to move on to other things, whether it's coaching, family, or different ventures outside of fighting. Then there's the fact that he's coming off a brutal loss to Khamzat Chimaev at UFC 308. That fight wasn't just another defeat. It was a fight that left him with a dislocated jaw and damaged teeth. And when fighters start sustaining injuries like that, it makes them rethink things. But here's the biggest clue. He's reportedly making his final decision after his next fight. That means whatever happens next could determine whether we ever see the Reaper in the Octagon again. Now, let's talk about Whittaker's current standing in the middleweight division. Look, there's no denying that he's still one of the best in the world. He's been a top contender for years. Even after losing his belt to Israel Adesanya, he bounced back and dominated guys like Darren Till, Kelvin Gastelum, and Marvin Vettori. But here's the thing, his last two losses were to the new generation. He got stopped by Dricus du Plessis, who showed the world that there are fresh killers coming up in the division. And then he was dominated by Khamzat Chimaev, whose relentless grappling overwhelmed him. These losses make you wonder, has the game evolved past Whittaker? Or does he still have that fire to make another title run? That's exactly what his next fight will answer. If Whittaker does decide to retire, this would be a huge shift for the UFC's middleweight division. Right now, the division is stacked. You've got du Plessis as the new champ, Israel Adesanya still lurking, Khamzat Chimaev making a strong case for a title shot, Sean Strickland in the mix, and guys like Bo Nickel on the rise. Without Whittaker in the mix, the landscape changes. For years, he's been the guy that new contenders had to beat before getting a title shot. If he steps away, that spot opens up. And let's be real, UFC wouldn't want to lose him. Whittaker is not just an elite fighter, he's a fan favorite. He's humble, he's likable, and he always puts on a great fight. Dana White and the UFC brass would probably do everything they can to keep him around. But let's say Whittaker doesn't retire. What's next for him? There are some exciting fights on the table. A rematch with Israel Adesanya. If Adesanya beats du Plessis and regains the belt, this could make sense. Whittaker has always wanted to prove he can beat Izzy. A fight with Paulo Costa. A matchup that fans have wanted for years. Two elite strikers going at it? Sign me up. A rematch with Khamzat Chimaev. If Whittaker wants revenge, this is the fight to make. A fight with Caio Borralho. Borralho has been calling him out, and a fight at UFC 317 during International Fight Week could be in the works. So, is Robert Whittaker actually retiring? Honestly, I think it depends on how his next fight goes. If he wins in dominant fashion, I think he stays and tries to make another title run. But if he loses badly, or if he takes more serious damage, I wouldn't be surprised if he calls it a career. Whatever he decides, he's already cemented his legacy as one of the greatest middleweights of all time. He's a former champion, a warrior, and a guy who's given us some of the best fights in UFC history. So, let's show respect to the Reaper. If this is the end, he's had an incredible career. But if he's got one more run in him, things are about to get interesting. Before you go, make sure to subscribe to the channel. If you love deep MMA breakdowns like this, you're in the right place. This is an exclusive fight community for hardcore fans, and you don't want to miss out on the latest updates. So hit that bell, drop a comment, let's talk about Whittaker's future, and I'll see you in the next breakdown. One of the reasons Whittaker has remained a fan favorite for so long isn't just because of his skills. It's his mindset. When you look at fighters, you see different types. You have the trash talkers, the showmen, the guys who get inside their opponents' heads. Then, you have the quiet killers, the warriors who don't need to run their mouths because their fists do the talking. That's Whittaker. Even after losses, he doesn't make excuses. When he lost to Adesanya the first time, he didn't complain. He went back to the gym, improved, and came back better. When he got stopped by Dricus du Plessis, he admitted he underestimated him and gave credit where it was due. That kind of mentality is rare. He's not afraid to lose, and he doesn't let losses define him. That's why, even if he retires, his reputation will always be intact. Fighters like Whittaker don't get forgotten. But here's the question. Does that same mentality make it harder for him to walk away? Some fighters retire because they feel like they have nothing left to prove. But Whittaker is a competitor. Does he really want to leave the sport on a loss? That's the internal battle he's probably facing right now. If Whittaker does retire, what's next for him? The obvious answer is coaching. He's already been training young fighters at his gym, and he has the perfect mindset to build future champions. Imagine a Whittaker-led fight camp, training the next generation of killers. He'd be an incredible coach. Then there's broadcasting. UFC loves bringing in former champions for analysis, and Whittaker has the charisma and fight IQ to do it. Imagine him breaking down fights like Daniel Cormier or Michael Bisping. Fans would love that. And finally, there's personal life. Whittaker has talked a lot about wanting to spend more time with his family. He's got a wife and kids, and let's be honest, this sport takes a toll. Fighters miss birthdays, holidays, and important moments. If he decides to retire, a big part of that decision will be wanting to be there for his family. And one last thing. Does the UFC want him to retire? Dana White and the UFC matchmakers aren't just thinking about Whittaker's future. They're thinking about business. Whittaker is a massive name in Australia and New Zealand. The UFC is pushing hard to expand there, and having a guy like Whittaker is crucial for that market. If he retires, they lose one of their biggest stars from that region. That's why I wouldn't be surprised if the UFC offers him a massive fight or a new contract to keep him around for a few more years. So, now I turn it over to you guys. Do you think Robert Whittaker is retiring? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Does he have one more title run in him? Or is it time to hang up the gloves? Let's get the debate going. And don't forget, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell for notifications, and be part of this exclusive fight community. We break down the fights like nobody else. Until next time, stay tuned,